So I want to give you some of the latest updates on the America-Israel war against Iran. There have been questions around what's the status of the new Ayatollah, Mojtaba Khamenei. Been some reports that he's been very badly injured. Other reports that he may actually be homosexual, which is pretty ironic given that Iran boasts about hanging gay Iranian citizens from cranes. Let's have a watch of what Trump said about this when he was asked about what is the status of the Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba, who's the new Ayatollah.
What are your advisors telling you about the Ayatollah's son, the new supreme leader? What are they telling you about him?
Well, it's not only them, it's you people. I mean, a lot of people are saying that he's badly disfigured. They're saying that he lost his leg, one leg, and he's been hurt very badly. Other people are saying he's dead. Nobody's saying he's 100% healthy. And he hasn't spoken because the Ayatollah would sit and he'd spew hate from a form of a throne. Not as nice as a throne. I like the English throne much better. But it was a fancy chair. But he'd spew hate from his chair. But you'd see him a lot, right? This one we haven't seen at all. So that could be for a lot of different reasons. We don't know, Peter, if he's dead or not.
And now that you've announced...
I will say this, nobody's seen him, which is unusual.
That's really interesting. No one's seen him. Of course, that suggests certainly significant injuries. And then we was asked about the whole issue of his sexual orientation. Have a watch.
And President Trump, first could ask you, you said earlier today that the new Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, you don't know if he's dead or alive. There are a couple of interesting reports about him today. There's one report that he just narrowly escaped death in the first airstrikes by stepping out into his garden. There's another report that he may actually be gay despite leading a theocracy that hangs gay people. How do you determine what's true, and do you have an assessment of this?
Well, so far nobody knows. If you look at his father, he used to give talks a lot, talking about death to America. He'd say death to America all the time. When they say death to America, you should believe them, because that's what they would have. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. But they never had the chance. I never gave them the chance to use it.
One of the things that I feel like is so poignant about all of this, obviously it's the hypocrisy. You have this, autocratic, authoritarian Iranian regime claiming that they're all about religiosity and all about following explicitly the will of Allah. Then we have in the case of potentially this new Ayatollah, who is himself engaging in homosexual relations. We know that many of the Hamas October 7th terrorists, there are reports that some of them engaged in sexual abuse towards other men and with hostages as well. And one has to ask, we know they're religious extremists, but in their twisted religious observance, you would have thought that they might be at least observing their, literalist interpretation of the Quran, but that prohibits explicitly homosexuality. So what's going on there? And I think this shows us that really what this is all about is not piety and religiosity. They're just seeking control and domination. And it's interesting as well, because right now what we're seeing in the battle of civilizations is like the Islamists who are saying, we are believe in transcendence and God and all of that, and then a kind of secular West which is relativist and doesn't believe in moral absolutes. And what I've always found notable about Judaism is that the Torah really provides, I think, a very sane balance between having structure and certain moral boundaries and red lines, but also mercy and kindness and openness. And, certainly from a Jewish Torah perspective, the Torah has a very strict sexual ethic, but it doesn't teach the kind of enforcement and hunting down and oppression that the Iranian regime has at all. It says, there's no doubt about it, the Torah is very clear that it presents a clear sexual ethic as being between a husband and a wife, as being the right ideal type of sexual engagement that's positive for the world, building a family. But it also didn't approach things with an oppressive authoritarianism that we see coming from Iran and the Islamists. It really believed in trying to cultivate things from a grassroots, bottom-up, cultural, societal way in terms of ethics. And you will certainly see that embodied in the Jewish communities, certainly in contrast to what we see in these evil oppressive regimes, the way that they balance having clear ethics whilst also not being oppressive. Let's also have another watch of President Trump talking here.
Over the last 3 weeks, they put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the streets. And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the place. But even if there weren't, who's going to do that? You know, who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right? And every form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're violent people. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it.
So clear that Trump really understands the evil of this regime. You know, remember when a few months ago he was saying, well, I spoke to them, they're not going to do all these beheadings they spoke about. And people were like, what are you thinking, Trump? Clear all along he understood the evil of this regime that needs to be dealt with. The fact that he's saying just yesterday on his posting on Truth Social, Mark Levin is MAGA, the Groypers, Megyn Kelly, Tucker, all that are not MAGA. He's making it very clear where he stands. In addition to the latest news that it looks like Iran's de facto leader, what was his name? Larijani, has been killed overnight. Also, that is a major story. But also, Israel is going into Lebanon to, as they say, once and for all, deal with Hezbollah. Have a look at this. This is IDF soldiers tonight before entering Lebanon last night. And one of their commanders is saying, we will go through every village until there's no more Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. We'll make sure our children won't have to do this again. We will do it for the last time. We must pray for our soldiers who are risking their lives for the safety, not just of Israel, not just for the Jewish people, but honestly for the free world. We cannot express our thanks enough to you all. And it has just been an amazing turn of events, hasn't it, since October 7th, to see how what was intended to be the destruction of Israel, God forbid, Israel has, with its ingenuity and determination, resilience, blood, sweat, toil, and blessing and divine providence, has been turning the tables. It's really been a remarkable turn of events. Now, one thing I want to touch on before we finish is that, as I've been mentioning, we have just launched our new JTV Plus documentary, which is addressing one of the most common, infuriating myths about Israel that I'm sure you've heard time and again, where people say, I've got no problem with Jews, I've got no problem with Judaism, but I've got a problem with Zionism, and they're totally separate. Well, guess what? They're not at all separate. They are, in fact, intertwined. And it is absurd to say otherwise. We created a new documentary called Zionism and Judaism, The False Separation. Have a watch of the trailer for this incredibly important film. And if you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link below in the video description and get educated. And hopefully, in an entertaining way. Have a watch. I'm not against Judaism, I'm just against Zionism.
It's not Jewish, it's Zionism.
Judaism and Zionism are completely separate.
You know, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state.
You can be Jewish without being a Zionist.
Zionism and Judaism is totally diametrically opposed.
I'm sure you've heard this before, from protesters, from politicians, from even well-meaning people trying to navigate the Israel-Palestine debate. But I'm here to tell you that this separation is complete nonsense. It's a comfortable lie. The kind of lie that sounds intelligent but collapses the moment you actually open this book, the Torah, the Bible, and study Judaism on its own terms. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to tackle this myth head on. We'll actually look inside the Torah and see how in the very first book, Genesis, there's no mention of law or religion. It's all centered on the promise of a specific land to a specific nation. We'll trace how Judaism, not modern politics, but Judaism itself, is structured around one obsessive, relentless, undeniable claim: the land of Israel belongs to the Jews. We'll reveal why the building of a nation in the land of Israel is an indispensable part of the project of Judaism. Why Judaism is not a religion, it's the divine project of a nation in a land. We'll discover how the Torah preemptively answered the colonization accusation that wouldn't fully materialize for another 3,000 years. We'll explore why, if the land is so central, Jews had to spend thousands of years in global exile. We'll unpack what Zionism actually means, and how anti-Zionism doesn't just contradict Israeli policy, it contradicts the fundamental architecture of Judaism itself. For some people, this is going to be uncomfortable viewing, but by the end, we'll prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Judaism and Zionism are inseparable. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.